Hello. In this video, we're going to go over understand the Paris Climate Agreement, and this will be needed to be able to do the to dam or not to dam. So when you finish this one, you can probably go ahead and start that one right away. I'm going to do this in two parts. We're going to do questions 1 through 5 in this video, and then we'll do questions 6 through 10 in the next video. That way you will not be watching things forever and ever. And here's what the assignment looks like in your weekly work, and you can see that I have it divided up into slides. So slide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to go ahead and do this 1 through 5 first, and then I will stop and I will do another video for slides 6 through 10. So let's go ahead and get started on this. The Paris Climate Agreement. 4 things you need to know about it. Slide 1. Okay, so you should have your assignment out in front of you, and you should be looking at the question for slide 1, which is what is the Paris Climate Agreement? So the Paris Climate Agreement, also referred to as the Paris Climate Accord, Paris Climate Deal, or Paris Agreement, is a pact sponsored by the United Nations to bring the world's countries together in the fight against climate change. So it's about bringing the world together to fight climate change. So on April 22nd, Earth Day, leaders representing more than 100 countries will gather at the United Nations in New York to sign the Paris Agreement on climate change. The event is expected to be the largest single-day signing in the history of the international accords. But what does this all mean? So this happened in December 2015. The signing ceremony was at the UN on April 22nd, 2016. And at first, joining at the national level were 55 countries representing 55% of the world's emissions. So since then, 196 countries have signed on to this agreement that is to fight against climate change. So slide 2, what is the backbone of the agreement? The backbone of the Paris Agreement is the global target of keeping the global average temperature from rising 2 degrees. So it's all about this 2-degree rising. Let's see if we can keep the temperature from rising an additional 2 degrees compared to the temperature of pre-industrial revolution by the end of the century 2100. Okay, so here's the tracked temperature rise, and here's roughly where we are right now. It's a little bit further now. We're around 2020. And the idea behind this accord is that we're going to keep it at less than 2 degrees. So we're supposed to be on a track down here. We're going to reduce emissions so that the temperature will stay less than 2. This is where it is kind of going with new pledges. This is 2.5 to 2.7 increase, and this is what our current policy and current world direction is going, is up here. So the whole point of this is just to try to curb emissions in the world so that it is down here by 2100. Okay, and they are relooking at the accords in 2020, and then we have a 2030 kind of signpost for the U.S. and the United Nations. So, part 2 of slide 2 is how is the global greenhouse gas emissions related to global temperature rise? So, a quick review on this. Global temperature rise and the greenhouse gases. Well, sunlight comes into the earth, enters our atmosphere, is absorbed by the earth, and sunlight that comes in is shortwave energy. And when it hits the earth, it gets absorbed and gets turned into long-wave energy. This long-wave energy is reflected, and the atmosphere, the CO2 in our atmosphere, absorbs this long-wave energy and radiates it back out as heat. Right? Now, some of that energy does get to escape. So what's happening with global warming is, again, we have the solar radiation coming in, we have heat radiated out, and then these gases trap it and keep some of that heat in here to warm the planet, thank God, and some heat escapes. Well, with CO2 and NO2 and CH4 increasing, the amount of heat that is escaping has decreased. It's no longer this size, it is this size. And because there's less heat escaping, more heat is trapped. Because more heat is trapped, the whole globe is warming, reducing the size of ice caps, raising sea levels, causing weather changes, etc. So that is how the greenhouse gases are related to global warming. The more greenhouse gases, the more global warming. So it's all about 2 degrees. Beyond 2 degrees, we risk dramatically higher sea level changes in weather patterns, food and water crisis, and an overall more hostile world. So this is slide number 3. So question number 3. List the changes that could happen. Again, if we tend to go over this 2 degrees, we're looking at more severe, a more hostile world. Higher seas, changes in weather patterns, food and water crises, and overall more hostility in the world and the environment around us. So the idea is let's keep it here, and let's not go here or up here. All right, so here are those things again. Strongest scientific evidence shows human-caused climate change is increasing heat waves and coastal flooding. Effects of global warming, rises in sea levels, extreme weather conditions will worsen. And you've seen the pictures of, as the sea levels rise, it's because the ice caps are melting and the polar bears do not have a place to live and they will probably go extinct. Okay, well, let's look at this. So here's the 2 degree maximum we'd like to have it according to the Paris Accords. Right, and here are the things that can go on. Risk to unique and threatened species. Well, at 2 degrees, the risk is there, but it's only to some. It's not getting extreme. Frequently in severity of extreme climate events. Again, it's increasing, but it's not too severe yet. Global distribution and balance of impacts. Okay, not too extreme yet. Total economic and ecological impacts, again, not too extreme, and risk of irreversible large-scale and abrupt transitions, not too extreme. But if we go back and look where we're kind of tracking to, 2.5, 2.7, if we do nothing, it's going to go up to 3.8 or higher. Okay, so we're at 2 right now. So if we're going in here, it's getting more extreme. And if it keeps going, it could go all the way up to 6 degree increase by 2100. And we're looking at major changes to the world, making it more hostile. So that's what the Paris Accord Agreement is trying to avoid. It's trying to keep this global emissions curbed so that the world doesn't become increasingly worse. Critics have argued that the 2 degree mark is arbitrary or even too low to make a difference, but it is a starting point, a goal. Before Paris, the world was on track to wildly miss the 2 degree mark. So this is slide 4. Summarize the message of this side. So again, we're looking at trying to keep it in here. And some people already think this is too low. But it's a starting point. If we can at least start here, then we can maybe go lower, but we have to get somewhere. If we don't, the world is heading up in this direction. So you might wonder, what is INDC? It's Intended National Determined Contributions. So this is the intended national determined contributions per country to get it to go here. It's all about 2 degrees. To accomplish this 2 degree goal, the Accord states that countries should strive to reach peak emissions as soon as possible. So there's no information in this slide. It's just to talk about we need to do this as soon as possible. Well, how? How can countries do this? Which is the question for number 5. Achievable, they need to achieve a balance between anthropomorphic anthropogenic emissions by sources and removals by sinks of greenhouse gases. So, a lot of words there. So, to achieve a balance, countries need to find a balance between human-made emissions. So, human-made emissions of greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, ozone, water vapor, and removals of these gases by sinks, which would be trees, water, removing it in other ways. So that's what we need to find a balance of. And if we can get the sinks to ramp up so that we can overshoot our emissions, then we would be at a place where we'd be at a balance, and the 2-degree increase will stay here. But if we keep on putting out more greenhouse gases, then temperature will keep rising and rising and rising. So that is, we need to find ways to stop our emissions. Currently, we're on track to hit peak emissions around 2030 or later, which will likely be too late. So where is that? Well, 2030 is roughly right here. And this is with our current policies. And we're looking at, it might be too late for us to go down to this 2 degrees because we've already gone too far. Right? And the idea is we need to curb it even more if we can. With that, I will stop this part A of this presentation. If you are inclined, you can go ahead and watch the second part of this, which is going to cover slides 6 through 10. But if not, take a break and then come back and watch 6 through 10 later.